rest. But on this particular day, they don't take precedent. Instead, one would be Aaron Rodgers and his situation with the Pat McAfee show. That's necessary to address because, after all, I'm an employee for ESPN. The other would be a fat bastard that has gotten away for far too long talking his bullshit. You wanted some? Fine. I'm happy to give it to you, you piece of shit. The Stephen A. Smith Show up next, right now.
Okay, so the first 20 minutes are about Aaron Rodgers.
Show right here over the digital air. You're somebody that was involved in some kind of public incident that I had to speak on, whether you're the wife or ex-girlfriend or some of a former player or whatever. I get it. You're a present-day athlete and you don't like my evaluation.
So Stephen A. Smith is a very famous sports commentator. Okay. Jason Whitlock is a washed-up sports commentator and is basically like fat male Candace Owens. I don't know how else to describe it. I like, it's like, imagine if Candace Owens was also not like, had no redeeming qualities. Like, you can't even, doesn't even look good. You know what I mean? Is that a way to describe it? Well, I don't know. He's also somehow dumber than Candace Owens too. Like, it's really odd. Like, Candace Owens at least sometimes like will remind people that she's black in her commentary while she's doing white supremacy, whereas like Jason Whitlock will literally forget. Like, it's odd. Like, it's the closest I've ever seen someone behave outside of Jesse Lee Peterson. Is the closest I've ever seen someone behave like the Dave Chappelle character.
Of what has transpired before our very eyes and what I'm witnessing, that's cool. But I swear to you, on everything that I love, it's not personal. I'm a sports reporter and sports commentator. That is what I have been throughout my career. It is my responsibility to tell you what I see through my lens, how I feel about it, what my perspective is, etc. It's not like I'm sitting at home with absolutely nothing to do and no obligation to touch on anything, but I feel the need to.
Aaron Rodgers is an anti-vaxxer. Josh Giddey is a pedophile. Zion Williamson is fat. That's what Stephen A. Smith said, actually. Dude, what's up with like, dude, I swear to God, sports commentators are either like insanely in shape. I think, did Felix tweet about this before? I can't remember. Like, everything I've seen as sports commentators are like, either they're like rail thin or they're just like super bloated. But the rail thin ones hate fat people with the same intensity of like doctors, gay doctors. Okay, which is, I think, like probably the most fat phobic community I could think of is like both being a doctor and gay. There's no one that's more fat phobic than a gay doctor, I assume. And then you have like I guess Stephen A. Smith. I don't know. People shit on Zion Williamson a little bit too much, I think, about being fat. And most of NBA Twitter is way fatter than he is, and he could dunk on you. So shut the fuck up. Calling Zion fat isn't fat phobic. How about you chill out, okay? He would destroy you. I have a lot of respect for him. I do, because, like, yeah, he's a big boy, okay? He's a big boy. Nah, he's overweight and blowing his NBA prospects. Fine. Oh, my God, why are you glazing Zion, dude? Because I think it's funny that there's a dude who's just, like, kind of fat. which is weird because like I've never been a big NBA guy, but I used to say that about Carmelo Anthony, like, which is, in my opinion, I mean, much worse to say about than Zion, who actually kind of deserves it. I know. I don't know why. I know that Carmelo Anthony was not technically fat. I just always thought he was kind of chubby. All right, let's keep going.
Invoke and ingratiate my thoughts, opinions, etc., upon the world. I actually get paid to do this. And because of that, sometimes my opinions, my thoughts, my feelings, etc., are things that you would not like.
I've grown, is what I'm saying. I've grown. I always thought he was like kind of chubby in a way that like bothered me, but now like Jokic is obviously in that same standard, and it still doesn't matter because now I love a little bit chubby boys in the NBA because like I'm also a chubby boy myself, and I think that's great. All right, let's continue. Let's just
but
stop
I have
talking
never
about it.
lied to you. Ever. If I wrote a story or I wrote an article, it's based on the things that I've been told, what I've seen, and what I feel. It is rare that I talk about myself on a personal level because my personal life is not anybody's business and I don't get into other people's personal life. It's not something that I do. Many figures in the world of sports find themselves in personal situations, not lawlessness, not unlawful things or anything like that, but there's plenty of situations, Michael, Sherry, Juvie, where I've seen certain things and I turned a blind eye and a deaf ear to it because it's none of my business. And I leave it alone. And one of the other things that I never do, I never attack my colleagues. I might disagree with something somebody says or does, and I might have an obligation to speak on it because it's in the news or whatever, but I don't speak against my colleagues. Once humanity comes into play, that's a given. Here's the other. That's not real work. Think about this for a second. I'm supposed to be covering sports, but I make a career out of talking about my colleagues. That ain't work.
Okay, we get it. You take a lot of seriousness to your job. Like this part is like, I feel like he builds up a lot. Okay, he builds up a lot, leading up to the pop off moment where he's just like, you know, I called my priest and I told him, you know, I asked him for forgiveness ahead of time. I told my sister, you know, you're going to hear some things that you've never heard. And it's just like, come on, dude.
His name was Harvey Stoller. It was Thomas A. Edison Vocational and Technical High School. I played there my senior year. I was in a basketball tournament at Fashion Institute of Technology where I dropped 27 points and got a scholarship because the coach came calling me after that and what have you. If you listen to him, I never had a scholarship to Winston-Salem State, even though it's on the books. Just call the university. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, I'm an honorary doctorate member. I have an honorary doctorate from Winston-Salem State University because of my contributions to Winston-Salem State. I'm called Dr. Smith. Has something to also do with the contributions that I make because I believe about upliftment. I'm an ambassador for HBCU Week, and I've partnered with Ashley Christopher and Mir Persicki in Delaware and others to generate over 10,000 scholarships in excess of over $65 million in scholarships for African Americans. But this man will tell you I'm lying. He even went so far as to say my autobiography, where I talk about my mother, my father, my sisters, the business, my hiring and firing and rehiring at ESPN. I didn't write it. I didn't write my own memoir, which, by the way, is a New York Times bestseller, something he wouldn't know anything about.
There.
Did you know that it's now on paperback? It just came out yesterday on paperback.
Okay, come on.
To get my selling 10,000 on Deadspin.com. The title.
When old heads start doing printouts, you know shit is about to get real, okay? Listen. When boomers in radio and on television, like when you're in a legacy publisher, when you're at a legacy publisher and you pull out a printout, it's over.
How Jason Whitlock is poisoning ESPN's Black Grant Land. Because remember, Bill Simmons, who's now at Spotify doing a great job, obviously had Grantland at ESPN, and upon his departure, Jason Whitlock was supposed to take up the mantle and create a black website for folks. This article was written by a Greg Howard, published on April 27th, 2015. The same Jason Whitlock that said he's seen my writing, the same Jason Whitlock that implied that I couldn't write, the same Jason Whitlock that said that I'm lying. What does this man do? Why would I call up this article? There's a plethora of reasons why I would do so, ladies and gentlemen. One of the reasons would be because it's as in-depth as it gets about how scurrilous, how trifling, how despicable this man is. But there's also another reason that I'd pick up this article. Let me read the graph to you that it says. Keep in mind, Stephen A. can't write. This staff, the one Whitlock was praising by way of warnings that if the writers and editors wouldn't align with his vision, he would get rid of them, was not the one Whitlock wanted. The undefeated.
Okay, I'm skipping this part too. This is boring. Okay, where does he get? TV. Spewing that bullshit to people. Did you tell him that? Did you tell them how you stood outside of First Take begging me to talk to you? Did you tell them that once this same article in Deadspin came out, weeks later you wrote a lengthy apology to me in an email, begging me to forgive you, pointing out how you were betrayed by this particular writer, so you know how I must feel that you betrayed me? Did you tell the folks that, you bitch? Did you tell them? You fat piece of shit. Did you tell them that? Got the names. We got Jamel Hill. We got Howard Bryant. You want me to bring up the other writers that wouldn't work for you? Why it took you nearly 2 years to get an article out? Because you ran that shit so bad you were running it into the ground? What a disgrace you were to John Skipper, the former boss of ESPN, or the host of others. You want me to talk about that? Because I got receipts. I got the email. Want me to talk about that? Now, just for everybody that wants to understand, how could this possibly be? Because once upon a time, I actually tried to speak up for this damn cretin. I knew he was a piece of shit. But I said, look, maybe he's misunderstood. Why would I do that, ladies and gentlemen? Because sometimes as black folks, we get in our own way. We think that all of us must be of one monolithic thinking, that we need to be completely and totally aligned. And any deviation from that brings into question our quote-unquote blackness. Martin Luther King was a man of peace. Malcolm X was by any means necessary. They can't possibly be on the same page. Wait.
Even
what? I'm sorry, what? Bro. What are you saying?
Though their agendas was for the upliftment and the preservation of our race of people. So I understand when we talk about stuff like this, how people can sit up there and say, how did it get to this? How did it get to this? Remember when I got suspended years ago? You know what's out there writing stuff, smiling in my face 1 minute, talking smack about me behind my back, and then ultimately writing it? It was him. Remember when I supposedly used people were speculating that he used the N-word on the air and all of this other stuff? He was the first one out there trying to say that I did it. Ladies and gentlemen, I didn't do it on the air, in my humble opinion. I'm telling you that. However, it's not like I didn't use the N-word when I was off the air, when I was talking to my fellas, or I was talking to other folks who happened to.
Did he say the N-word on the air? I mean, was this a big deal or something? Like, I don't get it. I mean, I guess you can't say it on TV, but like, if it slips out, you know. Stephen A. Smith says N-word on air, claims it didn't happen. Oh. Was discussing whether or not Kobe Bryant will play in the Lakers season opener. Oh my God. I'm a New Yorker. I speak very, very fastly. Sometimes when words are misconstrued, and I get that. I mean, yeah, okay, he slipped up.
Going on, you know, he'll be just fine. Opening night, Kobe Bryant is gonna miss it because my foot is sprained. Are y'all crazy? Please. It's a waste of time. Enough about that.
Wait, I like that he doesn't even address like what he possibly could have said. Anyway, the brass at ESPN have decided not to suspend the analyst for this on-air incident. It should be noted that this is the same network that suspended a SportsCenter host for saying chink in his armor when talking about Jeremy Lin earlier this year. Wait, what? Actually? I haven't seen that. Yeah, because it's kink. No, it's not, isn't it? Wait, it's not chink in his armor? No, it's not kink. It also has nothing to do with, like, you keep saying it. Guys, it's not a slur. What are you saying? I mean, it is a slur if you say it separately. It is a slur if it's separately. It's not a slur in that context. What are you talking about? What the hell? Yeah, it just means like vulnerability. Exactly. It's traditionally been used to refer to a weak spot in a figurative suit of armor. The standard meaning is similar to that of an Achilles heel. But it does look kind of bad when talking about an Asian person. Okay. But like, wait, what? An editor used the phrase as a headline? Okay, that's a little bit different. Like it's written down. This, on the other hand, is ridiculous. Like, on-air ESPN commentator Max Brados also used the same phrase when referring to Lin, asking, if there's a chink in the armor, where can Lin improve his game? Like that is totally valid. That's not like racist at all. This feels very racist. This feels like a regular term of reference. I mean, he was just using the normal term. Definitely unintentional. Notable controversies. Well, the phrase itself is innocuous. Its use in contemporary times has caused controversy in the United States due to it, including the homonym, which can be interpreted as an ethnic slur to refer to someone of Chinese or East Asian descent. Yeah, it comes from literally the mid-17th century. Okay? Motherfuckers didn't even know what Chinese was. Okay? Like, what are we talking about? It is based on a definition of chink meaning a crack or a gap dating back to around 1400. Anyway. But it's a double entendre, like you're being obtuse? No, this is a double entendre. This is not a double entendre. That's the difference. This is a double entendre and definitely does not meet the muster. This is being used as a regular term within context, in the completely appropriate context, as it is a perfectly normal reference that I have used, like it's a perfectly normal phrase that you use in normal conversation. Like the Achilles heel is like perfectly valid to talk about when you're talking about, like, I don't know, what are areas of improvement in defense or something like that. Where can Liv improve his game? Brados apologized, saying my wife is Asian, would never intentionally say anything to disrespect her and that community. Wait, he probably said my wife is Asian because his wife is probably not Chinese. Okay? And he didn't want to come across as like even more racist by saying, oh, my wife is Japanese. I would never disrespect the Chinese person. And then motherfuckers will probably jump on that and be like, oh, this guy thinks Chinese people and Japanese people are the same. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah, not a Chinese guy wearing armor. Anyway. People's bubbles are really showing right now. There's no way you haven't heard this term. All these people saying they've never heard in their entire life in America. Yeah, I mean, I've used it. And every time I use it, chat will like meme about it. And it's really annoying. And I didn't realize that was like a real thing that people would get mad at. But like I said, but you don't say it around Asian people, right? Wait, what? What do you mean? Like, if the situation called for that reference, like that term in the armor within the appropriate context, like it's a common phrase. Yes, I would use it. I would not like modify my language. What are you talking about? It's weird to be like, oh, I shouldn't say it. Your chat is the worst, dude. Lamont. It reminds me when people use the phrase off the reservation, which has been rightfully abandoned as a phrase. Like I said, this is weird, though. I mean, that's like, you wrote that as a title, that's a double entendre. You know what I mean? You were surprised as a commentator in the leftist space? Yeah. Anyway, but going back to the other thing, this, I think is pretty funny. And it also, once again, shows how white the audience is. It's something that I talked about yesterday, if you recall. And that is that, like, white audiences love black culture, but, like, don't want black people to be people, like black people. You know what I mean? And that's where this kind of comes from. I mean, it like, the expectation that he'd be suspended for this would be ridiculous, obviously. And I like that that article also puts this on top of this. This is a black dude slipping up and accidentally saying the N-word. This is a white dude that is being misconstrued. It's not even in the same, situation, though. It's not like he said cracker and was canceled for it or potentially suspended for it. Anyway. The other more damning part about this, in my opinion, is like ESPN has regularly. God, I'm such a fucking nerd. It's like I don't even watch sports, and the only thing I know about sports is the political aspect of sports, where like ESPN has regularly contributed to white supremacist components in the way that it has analyzed black athletes in the NBA and in the NFL, and have like routinely criticized, and oftentimes even black anchors have routinely criticized athletes in worse ways than even white commentators have, from the same framework of white supremacy, like, calling them thugs and things like that. And that is a byproduct of the fact that a lot of the sports world is very conservative, and a big chunk of the sports watching audience is still very white. Anyway. Yeah, the commentary on the Malice of the Palace is a great example of this exactly. Which also, there's a very good documentary on it too. But Jason Whitlock takes it way, 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 way further than all of the average commentators on ESPN and whatnot.
To be black. I am not a proponent of using that word often, nor am I advocating that word be used now. I'm just acknowledging the guilt that comes associated with me in terms of when I was younger. But I was always saying we as black people communicate how we want to communicate with each other. I love John Wooten, who's been associated with the Fritz Alliance, the Fritz Alliance, Fritz Pollard Alliance. Love that man. Love his contributions to the NFL, but when we would get into it in the past on rare occasions, it wasn't that he wanted the eradication of the N-word, because I support that. My issue with him was, hey, you shouldn't be encouraging the NFL to fine us and penalize us for using it amongst ourselves. How can a race of people who actually made the word iniquitous be in a position to punish us for using the word with one another? I had a problem with that. And I stand by that, but I digress. My point is, in bringing up all of that, Jason Whitlock pounced on it because that's what he does.
God, the audio.
You see, what he does
crazy.
Is he's the one that puts himself in front of white folks. The white folks. Not all white folks, not most white folks, but the white folks that dare we say may have a problem with black folks. He says, I'm your man. That's what he does. You think I'm lying? Ask ESPN. Ask Fox. Ask the Kansas City Star. Ask them all. Jamel Hill, Rob Parker, Chris Broussard, Skip Bayless, yours truly, along with a host of black folks all over this country. Every single one of them will confirm what the hell I'm saying about this piece of garbage. Ladies and gentlemen,
I think he's
as a black man,
I think he's so racist, even white people recognize that he's racist, unless they are like really racist white people, in which case they love him. I often told y'all,
I cannot imagine, as a black man, knowing our history, anything worse than a white supremacist. That is, until Jason Whitlock came along. He's worse than them.
The only people that are racist in sports Twitter are LeBron haters and Jason Whitlock.
He is the worst, most despicable, lying, no good, fat ass human being I have ever known in my life. And I'm gonna take a break.
Oh
because
my
I got
God.
more.
Oh my
In a
God!
minute.
Come on.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show. Right here.
He's such an old school radio guy.
Just
It's
at
so
least one
funny, like
time,
an old school commentator. Let's take it to the commercial break.
Remind everybody that as I'm sitting here talking about Mr. Jason Whitlock, first of all, it will never happen again. He's irrelevant. He's not important. He's insignificant, and he knows it. And he did all of this to try and bait me into all of this stuff. I know that's how people are looking at it. My family and friends and everybody thinks the same thing. My point is I don't care. And the reason I don't care is because I've been holding it in for nearly 10 years. And so there comes a point in time where, at the very least, at least one time, you have to address it. It's necessary. It's important. Okay? And as we sit here today talking about this subject, there's certain things that we just don't need to let go. You know, we just don't need to let go.
Cinnamon roll. Hold up.
Because there comes a point in time when enough's enough. And that time has arrived. Getting back into him and to really elaborate extensively on us. Ladies and gentlemen, John Skipper, the former boss for ESPN, wanted to start this website. And if you remember, when the Undefeated first came into existence, it was labeled the premier platform for intelligent analysis and celebration of black culture and the African American struggle for equality. That's what it was labeled as. Now that I read you that quote, let me give you a quote that this guy, Greg Howard, has a recording of Jason Whitlock saying to his staff at that time. If you're more comfortable working for white people rather than working for me, and that sounds humorous, but it's the truth, fine. This is according to audio obtained by Deadspin back in 2015. Some black people are far more comfortable answering to a white person than a black person, no matter how black they like to pass themselves off to be. Far more comfortable because they know a white person is going to overlook their shortcomings. It's good for a Negro. I'm not about that. But if you're more comfortable working for a white person, I will find a white person for you to work for. We have a higher standard here. Everybody has to get on board with that, or I'm going to find a way to move them someplace else. That was Jason Whitlock. And then he went out and hired a senior writer and editor, Mike Wise, who's white. This is the man that's in charge of black culture. Why can I say that? And by the way, I'm not casting any aspersions against Mike Weiss. I'm cool with him. I've always been cool with him. He used to work for the New York Times, used to cover the Knicks long before he moved on to the Washington Post. He's a credible journalist. I have nothing negative to say about him. I'm just saying, black website, but you bring in your white friend. In part because black folks didn't want to work for you. But I digress. Ladies and gentlemen, how serious I am? Am I? I have a contract that I negotiated with ESPN and I signed in 2015. I don't know of anyone who has this in their contracts. I had it in my contract, and I have a copy of it, where it specifically stipulates that I never work with Jason Whitlock. It's in writing. No wonder you didn't see him on First Take. You didn't see him on Undisputed with Skip Bayless either. Skip Bayless wouldn't allow him on there. You didn't see him on Numbers Never Lie.
Wow, that's
Either.
racist.
Jamel Hill and Michael Smith wouldn't allow him on there. Christopher Broussard for Fox Sports and Fox Sports Radio. Let me take a moment to tell you about Chris Broussard. If Chris Broussard were not in this industry,
I don't even understand why Jason Whitlock is like, did he have to be on any of these shows anyway? Like, why is Disney like, this is our guy, we have to have him on?
do you know where he'd probably be? Probably, because I don't know for sure, but probably be, y'all, in a monastery. He's one of the most...
Whitlock's Twitch averages 300K viewers. I feel like Jason Whitlock will get banned off Twitch.
religious, God-fearing, decent human beings you will ever encounter. It doesn't get any better than Christopher Broussard. And he can't stand Jason Whitlock. Look around. Don't y'all notice why black people scurry away whenever this roach of an individual is around named Whitlock? Because we know what he is. We know what he is. Blaze TV. You may not know. Glenn Beck.
Oh, God.
Dave Rubin.
Oh,
The great one himself, Mark Levin.
oh my God. He's mentioning Dave Rubin's name. What is happening? He said the great one himself to Mark Levin. Oh, my God. Oh, no. Okay. I'm sorry, but if you don't like Jason Whitlock, but you like a white guy saying the same shit, then what's the problem? You just don't want a black guy being a white supremacist? Is that what it is? I hope he's being sarcastic.
I bring up Blaze TV, which is where Whitlock works, because I want Blaze TV to understand I'm not talking about you. I know you're a conservative, you I get all of that. I'm not judging accordingly. I know Mark Levin well. We have one another on speed dial. We talk all the time.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, bro. He's not being sarcastic. He said he has Mark Levin on speed dial. Ew, dude. What do you guys talk about? Your hairlines?
The same applies to Sean Hannity, the Andrew Wilkows of the world.
What?
Okay? I talk to these folks. I'm not one of those people that's married to one side or the other. And decent people are everywhere.
Oh.
Be careful that you don't get your stuff.
Okay, dude, I'm sorry. But, I stand here not corrected, okay? I'm right. He's like, oh, yeah, both sides. I don't have a side, I don't have a dog in this fight. But then also, if you're shitting on Whitlock, and he deserves it 100%, while simultaneously glazing Sean Hannity and Mark Levin, then it's like you just don't want, you're fine with white guys doing white supremacy. You just don't like it when a black guy is doing white supremacy.
Self-stained and stenched by Whitlock. He can do that to people. He is the worst. He's not ethical. He's not moral. Clearly, based over what I've told you about me, he's also not factual most of the time. He will lie. He will denigrate. And he will turn against anyone to serve his own good. The real reason, and casting no aspersions on what Blaze TV presents and what it has to offer, the real reason he's there is because he can't get a job anywhere else. He hasn't burnt bridges. He's napalmed them. Call Eric Shanks and Charlie Dixon at Fox. Call Jimmy Pitaro, Burke Magnus, Dave Roberts, Norby Williamson at ESPN. Call them. Call them. Call John Skipper at Meadowlark Media. I'm giving you names.
Stephen A. is a closeted conservative. He's been on all these guys' shows. Chris Broussard, the good Christian you mentioned earlier, is also a conservative fuckhead. I mean, I remember the conversation between him and what's the other guy, Max, who would regularly duke it out with him, and would be like defending the black position, I guess. Max Kellerman, yeah, who is white himself. But yeah, he's not like I don't think he's like a closeted conservative. I think he has a lot of conservative takes.
Names. I'm giving you names. That's just I already gave you on-air talent names. I gave you reporters and on-air talent. Ladies and gentlemen, this same Jason Whitlock that wants to talk smack about me is the same Jason Whitlock that wanted to hire me. It's the same Jason.
Stephen A. admitted publicly, too, that he was the one who got Max taken off the show because he didn't like working with him. You basically can't work at ESPN at this point unless you're a conservative or a both sides guy. Dan Liebetard was doing a sports show and that didn't talk about sports, mainly politics. And it was the best show on ESPN. After ESPN was forced to cover George Floyd protests against their will, they waited until that stuff largely left the cultural forefront and fired every on-air talent who spoke out in favor of the protest. Oh, like, wasn't the controversy was like Jamel Hill, right? Can you watch the Cat Williams interview? It was so deep, I had to start taking notes. I mean, I watched parts of it. Problem is, it's like 3 hours long.
Jason Whitlock that stood outside doors trying to get me and coax me into even having a conversation with them because they knew I was so disgusted with him, presumably after he hit a strip club, because we all know ain't nobody trying to go out with him.
But Monty Jones is great, yes.
Okay? The same Jason Whitlock, that guy, is the same guy that sent both Dan Lebertard and Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah Thomas, the two-time champion, the Hall of Famer, one of the greatest point guards in NBA history, now working on NBA TV. That guy, that same Jason Whitlock, sent those folks to talk to me. Please, is there something that could be worked out? Can you forgive him? Can you talk to him? My words and my promise to them was that I want nothing to do with him. I will never hurt him from getting opportunities.
You like Stephen A. Smith? I don't care about Stephen A. Smith. I like Shannon Sharp. I like Bomani Jones. And that's pretty much it. Those are the two guys that I like. And I guess Max Kellerman is fine. But I don't really know Max Kellerman like that. I've only seen certain clips. And I like Shannon Sharp, not because he's a LeBron dick rider, but because he's jacked. Like, impossibly jacked. What about Keith Olbermann? I don't like Keith Olbermann. I think Keith Olbermann was fine, and then he lost his mind. ESPN had a CNN-type shift where they got rid of people like Dan Lebatard, Bomani Jones, Max Kellerman, Jamel Hill, and anyone who spoke out politically and wanted a more center-right framing of sports. The whole Kaepernick kneeling was a bigger divide for the conservative guys in sports. They couldn't handle anyone defending Colin, and a lot of heads got rolled because of that. Yeah. I remember just kind of covering some of that at the Young Turks. Fuck Cat for his jokes about Gaza? Wait, he made jokes about Gaza? What are your thoughts on Alperen Şengün? That's the GOAT. That's my GOAT. He's Turkish. That's a Turkish brother.
Damned if I'm going to help him by being associated with him in any way. Do you know why I said that, ladies and gentlemen? As black people, and I guess I was wrong. I should say at this particular moment in time, I was wrong to call him a fat bastard or a roach and all of this other stuff, because that's not my name for him. My name for Jason Whitlock is religiously Cain. C-A-I-N. You see, a lot of black folks, we talk about how we're the original man on the face of this earth. Well, that means Cain was the original murderer, because he's the one, according to the Bible, who killed Abel. That's Jason Whitlock. There is nothing good about him.
Damn.
Absolutely nothing. And I challenge anybody that knows anything about him to refute what I'm saying. I have the facts. They're all here. I know what he's done. The biggest mistake, one of the biggest mistakes that John Skipper could have ever made as the former boss of ESPN was hiring that man. Everyone knows it. That's why he attacks ESPN. That's why he attacks colleagues and contemporaries in the industry. It's not just because he thinks he's smarter. It's not just because he's fearful of anybody smarter than him in the same room. It's not just because of those reasons. It's because he truly despises us all. It's who he is. And the funny part about it is,
Okay, the way that Twitter hyped this up, I thought this was going to be way more, like, I thought he was going to ether him way harder. Damn, dude. Fucking sports Twitter gets, like, very little drama when it comes to actual commentators duking it out. It seems, I feel like they saved the best shit for television. This is just, like, 59 minutes. Like, it was way funnier when he was calling him fat. It hasn't started yet? What? It's 46 minutes? And it hasn't started. Okay, I'm just watching the fucking short version. That's crazy. That's crazy. That's unacceptable, dude. That's not all right. That's not all right.
and please do not allow this to be a reflection on my character, because this is not how I act every day. But I mean it from my soul when I say this is the worst human being I've ever known. I don't know of another human being worse than Jason Whitlock. He is a piece of shit. He's the dude that's going to have a funeral and ain't going to be no pallbearers. Might be 2 people to show up. He's that dude. He is the absolute worst. And he lies. And he incriminates. And he tries to set people up to fail, to big up himself because he can't do it on his own. He had a television show. He failed. He's had opportunities one time after another. He doesn't measure up. And now he's coming at the big dog. And let me tell you something right now. I am the big dog. I ain't the only one. I ain't the only one. There's plenty. Skip Bayless, apologies to him too for bringing
He's saying Jason Whitlock worse than Hitler? Question mark.
Now, Jason Whitlock's name in the same sentence as him, but we all know what time it is. Everyone knows.
We do. It's time for the top of the hour ad break, which, by the way, is literally the exact same length as this condensed version of the rant. And if you no longer want to see those ads, if you want to actually see the fucking final culmination of this whole process, this rant, without the 3-minute ads, then all you need to do is subscribe for $5 or for free with the Twitch Prime by connecting your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account, where you get 1 free Prime subscription a month. Use it on your favorite broadcaster. You can also get gifted a sub if you're lucky. Here's the 3-minute ad right now.
Knows. All the executives at all the networks, they know what a piece of shit he is. And they begged me not to do this. But even my pastor, A.R. Bernard, said, I'm not happy about it. But every now and then we gotta do what we gotta do. I promise you, and last to my sister Carmen, I won't do this again. I promise you. I know you cringing. You didn't want me to do this. I'm sorry, sis. It was necessary. He's a sorry fat.
Pastor said let that chopper sing when it needs to. Yeah, I mean, I think getting a blessing from your pastor before you go in on Jason Whitlock is pretty funny.
Piece of shit. A no of the worst order. That's who he is.
Amen.
And I want to make sure everybody knows that. And I said to Isaiah Thomas, and I said to Dan Le Batard, if you care anything about our friendship, don't ever call me about him again. I'm a very forgiving person. Not with him. I don't care what beef I had. I don't care how many of you out there that hate me, whatever, former athletes, all this stuff. Man, please, I'm sorry. Because I certainly don't hate y'all. We might have our differences from time to time, but ain't never that. This is the exception. I hate this bastard. Not even, far more than a little bit. He is the worst human being any of you will ever meet. You get within a mile of his presence. Wrap your arms around yourself to protect your soul. He is Cain. He is a devil. The worst. That's all I have to say. Y'all have a nice day. I'm going to go about my business. I will not speak about this piece of shit again. Peace and love.
Yeah, I mean, Jason Whitlock is Stephen A. said it's on site if he ever runs the shitlock. I gotta be honest, we watched that whole fucking thing and I have no idea what this man has done to him. I don't know. I mean, I guess he's like fucked him over before, but the real thing is that Jason Whitlock is just the worst. Like he actually is just a horrible person. That's it. I think Stephen A. Smith cares more about how he's a backstabber and how he said he's like doesn't know how to write and things of that nature. Have you ever considered doing this to no one in particular? A little bit. I mean, it's obvious to me that Stephen A. Smith does not care about Jason Whitlock's like white supremacy that much. I mean, I think he does care about it. Oh, he most recently said Stephen lied about his experiences in his book. Yeah. He definitely cares about the white supremacist aspect of it, but clearly not so much that like he hasn't thrown aside his relationship with Sean Hannity or Mark Levin. Do this for Ludwig? Dude,